Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, starring Eddie Redmayne, Catherine Waterston, Dan Fogler, Alison Sudol, Ezra Miller, Samantha Morton, John Voight, Carmen Yogo, forgive me if I said that wrong, and Colin Farrell, and directed by David Yates. Alright, let's just get straight into this, because I'm pretty upset with this movie. Gellert Grindelwald is a man who's caused a whole bunch of crimes, as we see in the newspapers. And I like the score while we say the newspapers, and we're in the year 1926, as we meet Newt Scamander, played by Oscar winner Eddie Redmayne, from arriving in New York with a briefcase full of these fantastic beasts. As we head towards the bank, we get introduced to a bunch of characters. Mary Lou, played by Samantha Morton, who I reviewed before in Jacob Kowalski, played by Dan Fogler, who I've seen in and Tina Goldstein, played by Catherine Waterston, who I've reviewed a couple of times in such movies as And I think this entire sequence at the bank is just playing for noise. And it bothered me so badly, it hurts. I'm not caring about these characters as much as the Harry Potter characters. It's moving around to the point where it's choppy and I can't follow it any further. Madam President Sapphira Piqueri, played by Carmen Yogo, forgive me if I said that wrong, who I've also reviewed in Alien Covenant, and Graves, played by Colin Farrell, who I've reviewed before in Minority Report in this movie. And those two actors aren't in the right roles, and Newt accidentally switches the briefcase with Jacob, and the creatures are unleashed, and it'll give me a headache. And honestly, I've watched this movie 3 times. Once in theaters, twice for the show. I watched it twice for the show. Oh my god, this is giving me a headache. And I've had a headache throughout these viewings, but the third time I think I had to take some Advil at that point. Henry Shaw Sr., played by John Voight, and his son Henry Jr., who's running for office. And again, I can't follow this movie very well because it's moving way too quickly. Then we meet Queenie, played by singer Alison Sudol, who can read minds, for example. She reads Jacob's mind almost way too often, and it gets almost annoying. And in general, I'm already getting annoyed and frustrated by not only how choppy this movie is, but it also gives me a headache, like I keep saying. It almost feels like Michael Bay made the movie, can make a better movie than this, and he's not even that good of a director in my opinion. Newt and Jacob go inside Newt's briefcase and discover the world of the Fantastic Beasts, and the special effects of the world of those beasts is pretty, don't get me wrong. It is a pretty movie to look at, but unfortunately it's not holding my interest or attention for me to enjoy the movie for what it is. Newt and Jacob go to Central Park and find one of the beasts on the way in the store that sells jewelry, and a lion comes right out of the blue with the authorities, and they disappear, being Newt and Jacob, in Central Park, and finds another beast, and Newt does something kind of funky as the beast almost gets Jacob and chases him down the zoo, and Newt gets him back into the briefcase. And that was a noisy sequence. Henry Shaw Jr. dies, and I'm thinking, who cares? I don't know or care about the character. Tina brings Newt's briefcase to Madam President Sapphira Piqueri's meeting, while Newt and Jacob in there, and they come out, and Tina tells the Madam President that there's creatures in the briefcase, and she, with Graves, arrests Newt, Jacob, Tina, and Graves, interrogates Newt with Tina, and honestly, This is my least favorite Colin Farrell performance I've seen him in the movies. Newt, Jacob, Tina, and Queenie meet up with Narlock, played by Ron Perlman, who I reviewed before in a couple of Guillermo del Toro movies. For example, and I'll review him again eventually when I get into. And I'm a huge Ron Perlman fan, just huge. But unfortunately, he's wasted in this role as an elf who owns a bar, and he's barely in this movie for the best, because I don't like this character, not even barely. He betrays our protagonists, and they escape to another place where they hide from the authorities. Lita Lestrange, who is going to be in the next movie and is related to Bellatrix, and I'll be reviewing again, and I reviewed this actress who briefly was in this one, and I'm going to review it again a couple of times, but I won't say it until next week. And she plays, and it's rather irritating because she's like a brief cameo for this movie, and then she'll be in throughout the next movie. This is a complete robbery, and wants every bit of my money. Like, it's like they're expecting $20 out of me, and the next movie is going to take another $20 out of my wallet without telling me what a complete story. And you want 6 movie times 20 out of me. That's like $120 out of my wallet, and it doesn't deserve every penny of it, in my opinion. Newt tries to save Crendus Barebone, played by Ezra Miller, who I reviewed before in. And Graves tries to save him as well, but wants him to be a bad, and Tina talks to him, and the Madam President destroys him. And Graves, as it turns out, is Gellert Grindelwald, played by Johnny Depp. And he was briefly in Deathly Hallows Part 1, if you recall. And I think he's better off in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise than any of this. Like, why is he here? I don't know. Except he wants money. And he's cheap that way. I'm sorry, Mr. Depp, but that's true, I'm afraid. Newt goes back to England, and when he talks to Tina about the book he's writing, when he has to go get on the boat, I shouted, "Get on the boat!" And takes forever to doing that, and I wanted this movie to be over at that point. Meanwhile, Jacob gets the bakery and his grandmother wished upon him, and got out of the job at the factory and works his grandmother's wishes, and the credits were rolling, and I was happy that it was over. Just absolutely happy. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.7 out of 10. This movie is loud, gave me a headache, and I don't care for the characters. Harry Potter definitely deserves better than this. And I blame J.K. Rowling, Miss Rowling, for wanting this prequel series, and I'm truly sorry, Miss Rowling, but you can't tell another convincing story of what happened before Harry Potter ever happened. Look at J.R.R. Tolkien, for example, in the Lord of the Rings versus the Hobbit trilogies, for example. I'm nervous about next week's movie. I'm just going to say it now. I'm really freaking nervous. And I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with The Crimes of Grindelwald. And until next time, turn the stupid camera off.